Welcome to GovCon Unscripted, where we dive into the unfiltered stories and strategies from all around the world of government contracting. Join host Chelsea Roberts as she explores how to navigate, thrive, and win in this complex but lucrative industry.
Welcome to GovCon Unscripted. This is your host, Chelsea Roberts. Today's episode is a part of a series that we're calling Success After Service. We're featuring brilliant minds with wisdom to share from throughout the federal ecosystem, folks that served in the military and have transitioned out and found some success after their time, either in federal or military service. I hope that you enjoy this episode and the series, and if you haven't yet, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends. All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to GovCon Unscripted. I'm your host, Chelsea Roberts, and today I've got with us Brian Pultro. Brian, who are you and what do you do?
Thanks for having me, Chelsea. I appreciate it. I'm a financial advisor. I moonlight as a Navy Reservist, and I'm honored to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you here today on this awesome series that we've got going, Success After Service. So tell us a little bit about your time in the service.
9/11 happened my senior year of high school. I was sitting in a math class when someone came into my classroom and whispered in the teacher's ear what happened. And that night, I signed up for Navy ROTC. I applied to a bunch of schools, but I only had a 3-year scholarship for ROTC, and my parents couldn't afford out-of-state tuition to some of the schools I was applying to. So my dad said, hey, I went to this small school in Alabama. I hear Auburn has an ROTC program. Check it out. So I applied to Auburn, got in, and said yes, sight unseen, went down there. That was the best 4 years of my life. Got commissioned in 2006. Across my time on active duty, served on 3 different classes of ships, taught ROTC at Villanova. Then I transitioned out of the Navy in 2015 to be a reservist. And it was at that point I started a financial planning practice.
Wow. So you started your own business after you left the Navy.
Yeah, that's correct. My uncle had been doing this since 1987. He needed a succession plan. And I asked him if I could be his succession plan and go into business with him. He and I have separate businesses. He has his own business. I have mine. But hopefully, eventually, when he retires, I'll have the opportunity to purchase his business over time. But when my licenses turned on June 1st of 2016, and I had no income, no clients, no nothing, and I had to hit the grindstone to build that business from scratch at that point.
Now, is that what your degree is in?
Both of my degrees are in political science. And I always tell folks who sit across the table from me in my financial planning practice, I got my degrees in political science, and they're both in international relations, because I thought to myself, I'm going to be in the Navy. I'm going to be on ships around the world. I'll be talking to folks from different countries. This will be useful. I didn't use my degree at all when I was in the service, but I use it every single day now, because as you can imagine, with the political atmosphere we're in and the changes to tax codes and how you can invest in a 401k and everything else, that's all anybody ever wants to talk about is politics and how it's going to affect their retirement. So I use it every single day now.
That's fantastic. Do you feel like your degree and going through that college experience, how do you feel like that shaped your view of your current?
I certainly think my degree has helped with the understanding of how the political system works. It's interesting. I'll give you an example. Seniors will hear something or read something in an email and it'll say, whatever party, Congress is going to take away Social Security. I know what it takes to have to take away Social Security. And I have to calm them and tell them how the political system works, and that's not going to happen. Or there's going to be a constitutional amendment so the president can stay a 3rd term. Well, that's close to impossible based on how constitutional amendments work. Let me go through that story with you so you feel better and can sleep at night. Things like that. It's paid dividends to be able to assuage folks' fears when they see something on TV or they get a rogue email that scares the hell out of them, but they just need to understand why it's not going to happen.
And how do you feel like your time in active duty Navy shaped your perspective on starting a business when you got out?
Backstory real quick. I remember distinctly when I was 16 years old, my bedroom was in the basement in the house we lived in. And my chore for that week was trash duty. And I remember Friday night, the trash was overflowing in the house. And what does a 16-year-old kid do? You go over the trash, you open the lid, you use all your force like you're giving CPR to smash it down as much as you can to avoid pulling the trash bag out and walking 20 feet to the dumpster outside. So I did that. I smashed it. And then Saturday morning, I'm sleeping in, and like 9 a.m., I hear banging on my basement wall, and I see the lights flashing, and I hear, Brian, get the fuck up here right now. Get up here right now. Why isn't the trash taken out? And my mom was furious at me, and I didn't understand why. And she told me that I let the family down, because if the trash wasn't taken out, she couldn't make crepes, which she made every Saturday morning. She didn't have any place to put the eggshells, etc. And when I reflect on my military experience and the discipline it would take to do the things you have to do in the military, I always think back to that moment. If I didn't have that moment, I don't know if I would have been able to make it. When she was so mad at me for not taking that trash out and told me how the entire family was let down because of one missed chore, like that stayed with me. And fast forward to 2007, I'm on my first deployment in the Persian Gulf. This is on USS Gettysburg. And it must have been about August or something. We're in the Persian Gulf. I have a 2 a.m. watch. I overslept my alarm. And a guy I'm still close friends with today named John McCarthy, he has to come down from the bridge of the ship to wake me up. And I saw my mom there, and I felt so bad for oversleeping. And my kids, I've told them that story a million times, but literally since that date, August 2007, I have never been late for anything in my life. Typically, I'm 15, 20 minutes early. And that frustrates them because they don't like getting there early. But I always tell them that story. They remember and they know why. But it's just those little experiences that can go back to your childhood, just help you through the service. And, you know, those little moments you remember help you reflect on everything.
First of all, did you tell John that you thought of him as your mom in that moment?
No, I didn't tell him. He was pretty pissed, obviously, because from the time he woke me up, I still had about a half hour before I was going to get up there. So he wasn't happy with me.
It's a good thing that you're still friends today.
Yeah.
I say that. And what other lessons have you taken from your time in the service and out of your service and into transition?
The team is more important than the individual is the biggest thing. I try to impart that on my kids all the time, especially things I do inside the community and all that stuff. Well, that was the biggest thing. I had an aha moment when I was a young ensign on my first ship when the captain said, hey, we have to paint the ship stem to stern, bow to stern, because we have some admiral coming or whatever. And I thought about that. And when I was young, I used to think that the guys in my division worked for me. But then I quickly realized at that time that wasn't true. The enlisted folks on the ship worked for the captain. And I worked for those enlisted guys because it was my job to make sure they had enough time to study, to get promoted, to get them awards, to get them time off, right? It wasn't the captain doing that, was me. But they were doing things for the captain. And that aha moment made me realize that I was there for the team and no one else. And if I could help those guys put more money in their pocket, get more time with their family, make them happier, then the team, the ship succeeded overall. That was the thing that led the trajectory to where I am today.
Now, do you have a team within your business?
Fortunately, I don't. It's just me right now. My uncle has a team. It's himself and 2 administrative assistants. So far, I have advantages he didn't have, right? When he first started this, he was filling out pieces of paper and sending them by fax machine to open things, right? I have the benefit of automation and AI. And so it's a lot easier for me to handle the workload, that same workload he had 30 years ago.
Do you see yourself growing the business into having other financial planners or other team members?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, a friend of mine who is currently serving in the Air Force, he'll be until 2031. I'm grooming him, targeting him to go into business with me when he gets out. That's the plan. And most of my time in the Navy, I was an operations officer. Some folks think about what they're going to have for lunch. I think about what's going to happen 20 years from now. I already have a vacation plan for the year 2045 already.
Wow.
Planned. Yeah.
Where is that vacation to?
I'm a student of history. The 100th anniversary of the end of World War II will be in 2045. So my goal is in the fall of 2044 to move to England, travel the country for a few months, and then in the spring of 2045, end my time there in London, where I'm assuming the biggest party on planet Earth will be taking place in London in May of 2045. I plan far out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a benefit not only to you and for future looking activities, but also to your clients who I'm sure are looking to have some sort of security in their future financial plans.
Absolutely. I was actually a few minutes before we hopped on together, I just had a husband and wife in here and we're talking about student loans and how that might affect the retirement And I was explaining to them, it's my job to think 40 years down the line so you don't have to. And how is taking out student loans right now going to affect your ability to save for retirement? And if you can't save for retirement because you're paying for student loans today, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to have to move in with the kids? They're going to have to take care of you. They have to put an in-law suite in. Maybe there's friction in the relationship because they see you in the kitchen every day making grilled cheese. You got to think about these things. Not only am I thinking about London in 2045, I'm thinking about how taking out a student loan today is going to affect someone in the year 2055. Yeah, it's all part of it.
Wow, that's long range planning. And I'm eagerly hoping that we all make it to 2055. I think that's a righteous goal. You mentioned that you're in the reserves. How do you feel that has affected your business positively and or negatively?
Great question. I've never thought about the positive part because typically the negative. So when I joined the reserves in 2015, my initial plan was to get out after 2 years. One of those defining moments in your life that you think back on it and you wonder where it came from and why it happened. Maybe it was fate or whatever. I was telling my uncle, the one I work with, who we work in the same office, that this must have been May of 2017. I said, I'm getting out in December. It's time. Casually, he stares at me as he's holding his bag to leave for the day. He goes to the door. He turns around and looks at me and says, if you get out, you're a fucking moron. And then he walks out the door. And he didn't say anything. He never said anything else about it after that. And it sat with me. Why is he saying this? He's not saying this as my uncle. He's saying this as a financial advisor. I guess it was fate, because in December of 2017, I got tagged for mobilization and I was staying in anyway at that point. The negative part was I had to shut down my business from about June 2018 to August 2019. Thankfully, he was here to cover my ass, right? My uncle could take my clients and help. Obviously, I still do my 2 weeks a year. I still do my 1 week in a month. Sometimes it's challenging. You're out for that amount of time. You get a backlog when you come back. The positive thing is I try to educate all young folks that I see who are considering getting off active duty and not joining the reserves. I tell them what my life would have been like if I had gotten out and what it's like because I stayed in. Besides the pension and the healthcare, which are the biggest things, I'm in Pennsylvania. I do miss the camaraderie of military service. I work for myself. I don't have those relationships anymore. So doing that once a month and the 2 weeks a year is great. It's a great morale booster. There's just so many positive aspects of remaining in the reserves. It's worth the trade-off of missing time at work or with the family, I think, over the long term.
Do you find it hard to balance the workload that you've got with the commitments that are required for being in the reserves?
If I was a normal person, I would tell you yes, but because I'm a freak when it comes to long-term planning, the answer is no. I'll ask my wife in the morning what her day is, and then she jokingly says to me, what's your month like? Because she knows I have my entire schedule memorized. And the Navy, being an operations officer, taught me the virtues of long-term planning, and it's something I carry with me today. I guess I'm a nerd when it comes to planning, and I'll accept that title. It could be super hard. I'm on the board of Villanova University's alumni board. I serve on Auburn University's alumni board. I work with my local VFW. I try to do as much as I can to give back to the community while still serving, as well as running my financial planning practice. And sometimes the hours are long and the stress is high, but so far it has certainly been worth it.
Does that keep you in a sort of readiness mindset by putting yourself into all of those activities and making all of those commitments, booking your schedule full? Does it put you back into the place of not being able to wake up late and having somebody breathe down your neck just in case?
That's a great question. And I think one of my biggest fears when I got out was getting complacent and losing that edge.
Sure.
And listen, I'm not a proponent of cramming a bunch of stuff into someone's day. We could go off on a whole tangent about my relationship with time, meaning like a clock. I have this weird relationship with time. I've read a bunch of books on it, but I don't want to not have enough to do where the thing I'm looking forward to most is going home and watching Matlock. Sometimes it is a lot. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, depending on the time of the year, but it keeps me focused and it keeps me kind of diligent in the discipline I need to run the business and move from activity and try to be successful instead of doing the exact opposite, which could easily fall into being complacent and doing nothing.
Absolutely. And I think it's probably a challenge for a lot of folks that make their transition out of active duty service to find things that keep them busy, but still ignite their passions and they get the joy out of it that they're ultimately
Absolutely.
looking
Yeah.
for. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you got out and started your business?
Definitely the civilian world was a shock to me. For anybody who served, there's just this intangible, it's hard to describe. There's that camaraderie with your platoon, with your unit on the ship. You lose that, and it can be disheartening that civilians can't relate and don't understand. Sometimes it can actually be depressing. I wish I could articulate it. Other folks know what I'm talking about. There's just this thing that's missing. I think that was the hardest part when I first got out because I was so focused on studying for my licenses and building the business that I didn't feel like I was doing something that was for the benefit of others yet. It wasn't for the greater good. And that took a while to come around. But it was the camaraderie was the big thing. Folks not understanding what you saw in the service, what you went through in the service, the time you missed with your family, those things they just can't relate to. And when you're around folks that you can't relate to, it's hard to connect with them.
Right, absolutely. Did you think about going to another business, potentially joining what I like to call one of the other biggest bureaucracies in the world, like going to work for a Lockheed Martin or a Raytheon, just try to get back into that sort of group setting in which you feel like you're contributing more to US elements?
I did consider that stuff, but I had missed so much time of my kids' childhood with deployments and things like that. My main goal when I got out was to be able to make my own hours. Essentially, that means I can't have a boss. So that was the biggest thing for me. I did interview with a few companies, but then again, you're traveling, you got to be at this place, that place, you have to work certain hours. And it just turned me off because I didn't want to miss another birthday. I didn't want to miss another baseball game. I didn't want to miss any more of that. So this was the obvious choice. And this choice also gave me the opportunity to give back in ways that helping a family who in their entire history, no one had ever been to college, help that family save for college to put their kids through college. And now generational change has occurred where now they can save for retirement and save for their kids' future. And those folks who walk through your door and they begin that process, they can't understand the impact they're having for generations that they'll never meet. And that is incredibly rewarding. And that's the kind of work I wanted to do.
That's incredible. It's giving back in a whole different way at a different level, but it's so important and so valuable to those folks that get the opportunity to interact with you and have that relationship with you. That's such an incredible community service that you're providing that I think folks probably are not necessarily aware of the fact that they could do this too. They could ultimately step out and say, I want to start my own thing. I want to manage my own hours. I want to be able to provide a service to people at my level without having to be just a cog in a machine.
Absolutely. And listen, don't get me wrong. I get compensated for helping people achieve generational change. The first year, 2, 3 years, it was hard. It was pinching pennies. It was, hey, where's the next paycheck coming from? Because you're still building your client base. But all that hard work and the discipline that the military provided me, all the way going back to my mom when I didn't take the trash out, it's been so rewarding today. And being able to see the anxiety wash off someone when you tell them they're going to be able to retire at the time they want to, or even tell them they're going to retire early, or put their kid through school without taking out a student loan at all. Again, I know I get compensated for that, but the personal joy and fulfillment I feel when I can assist with that and make their dreams come true, it's just incalculable. And going back to the service, feeling you're doing something for the greater good.
Do you feel like there were any sort of key factors that gave you the confidence to start your own business after you left?
I have to give all the credit to a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away almost 3 years ago this month. So when I first got out of the Navy, I met him. His name is Kevin. He owned a larger enterprise that, we'll say, hosted financial advisors is the easiest way to explain it. And I met with him and he saw something in me that I don't know that I could have at the time when I was younger. And a lot of it was my military background. He's incredibly patriotic. But what he said, I see something in you. I think you're really going to do a great job in this business. You're going to be a positive. I'm going to pay you a salary out of my own pocket just to study and nothing else, just so you can keep the lights on. and work towards getting your licenses. And then the day your licenses turn on, you're on your own, but I'm going to pay you a salary just so you can sit here and read books in this office and adjacent to mine because I believe in you. And that was so impactful to me. And the guy I was referencing, the Air Force kid, actually turns out is his nephew. So
Wow.
I'm trying to pay it forward. Eventually, he's going to get out of the Air Force, and I hope we can go into business together. And I'm going to remember what Kevin did for me so I can do it for his nephew, because the opportunity he gave, and I used to say this all the time to him when he was alive, and he knows it because he's an advisor. But the opportunity he gave to me just by paying me $20,000 to study for 8 months, literally, and I do mean this, Chelsea, literally has changed the lives of my great-grandkids. And he knows that. I know that now. And I hope to pay it forward when his nephew comes online with me, hopefully in a few years.
Wow, that's incredibly remarkable. Having somebody to invest time and energy and dollar bills to something like studying and getting that forward to put you into a position where you could succeed. That's incredibly valuable and incredibly generous of that individual. So thanks to Kevin, because he put a good one out there.
Thank you.
What are some of the biggest takeaways or biggest lessons that you would share with somebody who's just looking at getting out of active duty?
I failed in this one. Make sure you have enough money saved before you get out of active duty. That was a big mistake that I had. And if it wasn't for Kevin, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here today. So if you know you're going to be transitioning out in a year or two, you got to start saving that paycheck. By the time you get out, you should have at least 6 months worth of savings, meaning your bills in there. I would have started the process a little earlier, meaning only going back 10 years when I was starting to transition. LinkedIn wasn't the thing. We didn't have all these things where we could apply for 50 jobs a day. It was a little different. Just beginning the process early so you don't feel overwhelmed towards the end. Holy crap, I have 2 months till I get out. I'm taking 60 days of terminal leave. I got to find a job. That process needs to start 6 months ahead of time. The saving for getting out in case you can't find a job needs to start a year ahead of time. Those are the two biggest takeaways I would have. And then if you're coming off, like for me, I was coming off sea duty, so I could join the reserves with what's called a 2-year dwell, meaning I couldn't be mobilized for the first 2 years. They got me on 2 years and a day. But still, you can do that. You still retain that health care. You still get your drill pay, which is helpful. So the reserves is worth looking into. And if you know how to be a reservist, it is easy to be a reservist. It's a super good supplement to the career you're trying to build after you get off active duty.
And it keeps you in that same sort of environment and puts you back into the position where you're able to maintain a little bit of that camaraderie that you were talking about earlier and maintain the tie to the mission and to serving the mission, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of playing Superman and Clark Kent. I have a beard right now. When I'm not wearing a uniform, I have a beard all the time. You got to put that uniform on. You got to shave. You got to look the part. It's almost like you're taking a mental vacation from being a civilian and you jump back into that world, even if it's for 48 hours, it just resets you. Okay, there's the discipline, there's the drive, there's the focus. This is what you look like in the mirror without a beard. Uniform still fits, you haven't gotten fat, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's great.
There's a lot of value there in not sizing
Absolutely.
up.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And this has been an incredible conversation. And you've shared so many pieces of wisdom that I'm sure many folks are going to get a lot of value out of. If folks want to get a hold of you, can they do that?
Absolutely. They can certainly get in touch with me via text, via email, phone, through my website, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. Absolutely.
Awesome. We'll get those links into the show notes for folks that feel like reaching out. I'm not sure we're going to publish your personal phone number, but we'll make sure that we get folks connected to you in one way or another. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brian. This has been an amazing conversation, and I wish you all of the luck in bringing on more clients that you can help plan 40 or 50 years into the future with.
Awesome, Chelsea. I really appreciate your time. It's been an honor to be on your show, and thank you so much for everything.
Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of GovCon Unscripted with your host, Chelsea Roberts. Do you have a GovCon story or need guidance in government contracting? Connect with Chelsea on LinkedIn to be a guest on the show or to enhance your business strategy. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your growing GovCon community.